thumbnail. Hey there, a couple of things before we get started, and the reason that you're seeing my face right now, there's 3 reasons. One reason is obviously I am a ginger now. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we got started is that this is a painting that I simply just don't really like how it turned out, and I didn't really like it during the process. And I was gonna scrap this whole thing. I filmed it all and thought, why did I even film this? But then I figured I should put it out there just so that you can see me kind of struggle with something, because it happens all the time. I just don't film it, and it's very realistic. So thought that might bring you some comfort, so you can watch me kind of goof it all up a little bit. Oh my gosh, suddenly, like, I'm so out of breath, and there's like so much saliva in my mouth. The third thing is, hey, look at this. It is Mushroom Rain, and this is the book, one of the books I was illustrating last year. And if you want to check it out, there is a video where I illustrated a spread from this book on Procreate, and I sort of talked you through the process of everything. But here it actually is in my hands, and maybe I'll do a video where I go through it sometime. And you can buy it at any place that sells books. You can probably find it at your local indie bookstore. You can find it at some Barnes and Nobles. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on any online book selling website. And then I'm just gonna flash this real quick. That's an advanced reader's copy of 12th Grade Night, the graphic novel that I also worked on last year. So we're just getting all sorts of stuff in the mail. Okay, let's get to painting, huh? Oh, you know what I've also just noticed? Hey guys, welcome to the voiceover portion of this video. I'm coming to you live from my bed at this moment of recording this voiceover. Boy howdy, this coaster's really been through the ringer from the very start, because look at this, vegetables. What? There's no vegetables on the final product at all. And I regretted the vegetables I drew on this, so I said I am going to gesso right on over this and just delete everything. Can't even hear me doing my ASMR. What's the point, moron? The other 3 coasters that I did turned out pretty good. I liked how they looked, and I thought the 4th one is going to be the epic finale. But it just felt kind of flat. It was just one of those projects where I felt like off from the very beginning, and I thought maybe it will get better, and it simply did not. In fact, I would argue perhaps maybe that it got worse. But that's okay, that's the point of this video. Gotta remove your desk rocks, you know, your desk rocks that you have off of your desk so that you can paint. This is the sketch that I sort of came up with for the coaster, and I was okay with the sketch. I thought it was kind of fun, like a little tattooed worm nudibranch situation. But I just liked the sketch better, because once it actually started happening on the coaster, it was just me in my mind going, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And it starts with your yucky, muddy, poopy gesso that you have. As you'll see, my supplies are not very fancy. I do not have clean brushes. I have brushes from like the dollar store or cheap brushes from the craft store. My paint palette looks like a mess. It's just a ton of gesso caked in there and some acrylic. I don't have any rhyme or reason to my palette. And in fact, the palette itself is, I think, just from Amazon. It's nothing special. It's very easy to travel with though, and that's why I got it in the first place. So here's our lovely coaster, beginning with the red colored pencil. And from the start here, I am just sort of being very loose with my shapes. I don't care too much about how this looks. It's a very rough guide. I know it's going to get covered with paint eventually, but I love using this red colored pencil because if the paint shows through, or rather the paint has gaps in it, sometimes I'll intentionally leave gaps so that that red colored pencil will show through a little bit, and it just adds a little nice spicy edge, nice little pop of red. I feel like I'm always talking about this pop of red, but it's just so nice. It's irreplaceable. I feel like no other color could do it quite the same. Maybe a light blue or like a mint. So this is turning out fine, right? I'm considering, okay, maybe I'll put some like little spikes, like a caterpillar situation, and maybe like a nudibranch or something like that. But a lot of this doesn't end up staying for the final, including the face. That face is not the final face at all. Not by any means, unfortunately, because it's kind of a cute face, but I ended up going with something different on instinct. A lot of this was just instinct. And sometimes it works for me and sometimes it does not. And in this instance, it just didn't. My brushes are poo-poo, pee-pee, silly brushes from Hobby Lobby, I'm pretty sure. They are the cheapest ones you can get. If I work with, like oil paint or something that requires a nicer brush that is affected more by chemicals, then I will use like a horsehair or a boar's head. Boar's head is the meat. Boar's hair brush. But for gouache and acrylic and sometimes even watercolor, I am really just looking for a tool to put the paint on the object. What I'm doing right now is loosely laying in the background with the gouache that has been mixed with a fair amount of water. I want to keep it somewhat opaque but translucent enough that I can still kind of have a guide for where I'm working. And there's really no set way that I do this. There's no like step-by-step process. Like now I'm going in kind of with the white, and there will be times when you see me going in with colored pencil before I should, and that's in air quotes because, when should you really put in the colored pencil? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's whatever works for you. What I'm saying though is I do a lot of back and forth, and what I'm specifically doing here is using that white but mixing it with some of my pastels, and I'm literally just scrubbing the brush with a little bit of water in some of the pink and the yellow and the light blue and adding a bit of thick opaque white to that. I'm really inspired by the look that Matt Forsyth has with a lot of his lighter colors. He just does such a great job of having that nuanced, creamy, milky, all those very, very good words that make you feel very nice. He does that in such a beautiful way, and especially contrasted against a black or a dark background. I just really admire it, and I was trying to sort of not do Matt Forsyth, but do Jamie Green doing Matt Forsyth, if that makes sense. And here is an upside down, tube of acrylic gouache, in case you didn't catch that, which is acrylic gouache. That makes sense, right? Acrylic gouache. But you can't really mix it with regular gouache. It doesn't mix very well. And I am attempting. You can see here, I am really trying, but the gouache has not dried, and this is, I'm putting it on the edge. It's just all over the place. I do love that really bright ultramarine blue though, and I don't have a gouache in that color, so I thought I'm just gonna throw it in there, just let it do its thing, work with the gouache, and it sure did do something. Now here we are trying to salvage the sort of fake red glow that I was talking about earlier, where you have that colored pencil showing through. If I completely cover up the colored pencil like you see here, then I just go back in and I kind of fake it. I add a little bit of red paint here and there, and I learned this from one of my teachers. I almost just said Chris Pratt. Nope, George Pratt. Imagine Chris Pratt. I would hate that. Oh, George Pratt used to put a little pop of red on the ear, and he'd be like, bam. And I always think about that now because it really is so helpful to bring some life and some contrast and make it vivid and spicy. I've probably said this in a previous video. This is looking a bit phallic, I will say. I stopped for a second when I was painting it and thought, should I even continue recording? Because this looks like just something long and flaccid and terrible. But I kept going. Despite the flaccidity of it all, I kept going. And that's on period. Like, use that as a Bible verse. Amen. Oh, you guys should have just seen how quickly I ran into my kitchen and get my laptop charger. It was so fast. If you timed me, it would have been like 3.2 seconds. That was amazing. So now I have indigestion. My laptop was gonna die. I didn't want to lose all this valuable talking conversation that we've just had. Okay, so we got some antenna going on here. This is when I started to feel a little bit more hopeful because it was looking less phallic and a little bit more insexual. Uh-oh. I'm gonna keep that in. And then I put this sort of snaily, nudibranchi veil on the edge, and that started to make me feel a little bit better too. I'm putting a little bit of lighter red, sort of a coral color to differentiate the face from that veil that I was just talking about. I don't even really know what you would call that. Veil, slug skirt? Yeah, we'll call it the slug skirt. And then this is the butt piece. Granted, I know nothing about slugs or snails or nudibranchs, and I'm making up all of this anatomy, and this also is a completely made-up creature, so that is the butt. What did I just say? Butt plug? What did I say? Butt piece. I said butt piece. We've got lots of legs. It's coming together now. Like, I'm feeling a little bit better once the pieces are being put together in this little disaster puzzle. And here is when I say, hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident, so I'm going to go in with the colored pencils, which for me is like a solidification part of the process, where once I start to put in that colored pencil, I'm able to refine some edges, make things a little bit more clear for myself, you know, stick that red colored pencil in the crack real good. And that kind of just helps give me a guide moving forward. And I do always go back in with gouache, and then maybe I'll go back in with the colored pencil. Do you see the hesitation here? Do you see me thinking, what should this face be? And then I just land on, okay, circle eyes, little circle eyes. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, no, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you decide on that? It's too late. And I could always paint over it, but at this point, I just was like, we're just accepting it. We're going with it. And the unibrow always fixes everything, so I went in and started doing the unibrow. The unibrow did make me feel a little better. Even if just for a second. There's always something that makes you smile about a V-shaped unibrow. I do that with a lot of my art, especially if I'm like, this is a little plain. I add a unibrow and it's suddenly like, oh, I'm seeing everything with new eyes now. Going in with that smaller brush, kind of refining the edges of stuff. Not too precise. I'm not too clean about it because I do want it to feel a little bit natural still. I don't want it to be sterile. But man, I really admire people that are good at doing that really crisp, clean gouache work. I am feeling like, okay, this is okay. And I go in and sort of map out where his pupils are going to go. Again, no plan for this. Everything at this point is instinctual. It's all intuitive. I'm just going for it. And now it's time for his tattoos. I plan to do this in gouache with a tiny brush, but for some reason, it ended up being colored pencil. I can't tell you why. In fact, even when I was doing it in colored pencil, I believe I was thinking, okay, this will just serve as kind of a guide, and then I will go back over with gouache. But then as I sort of put that colored pencil down, I realized maybe this is opaque enough to do the trick. And all of these designs, again, fly on the fly. Just being like, shit, I don't know. Put some flowers on it. Put a star. It was just completely random, and that's okay. I really enjoyed this part, actually, just sort of coming up with these, like, I'm calling them tattoos. And you know what? I stand by that, actually. He's tatted. He's a tatted baddie. And he walked in and said, give me all the flash you got. Give me all the Friday the 13th tattoos you have. And he ended up looking kind of cool. I'm putting in some blue for his eyes over top of that red base, and not sure what that is. Like, what? I put that blue in the flowers. I don't think I used it anywhere else in the actual tattoos. That was the only spot that I used it. So strange. So strange. I did like this little line. I think it provided some nice contrast against that skirt, as I was calling it. And then he got some hair on his antlers. Those aren't antlers. Antenna. It could be antlers. He's got hairy antlers, and I thought that was kind of cute. I was fine with that. And then we're going in with our second color, this sort of light powder blue, which I love this color. I love this colored pencil. It usually fixes all of my issues. In this case, I don't know if it really fixed my issues. It did help me, though. It looks nice with the red. And I don't know, it's okay. It's okay, I think. Again, with the shapes, just sort of on the fly, coming up with stuff, putting it where I think it should go, and, you know, intuitive drawing, I suppose. Stick it in the crack, why not? Everything's better when you stick it in the crack, especially this light blue color. Just throwing it everywhere. It'll fix everything. Put it on the legs, put it on the skirt. It'll solve all your problems. And it helped. The sickly green also kind of helped add a little bit of depth, a little bit of interest. I'm just using words. Ultramarine blue on his antlers or antenna, whatever we're calling them. His hairy stumps, if you will. Adding that also on his skirt to create like a zebra pattern, or maybe it's shading. Who knows? It's whatever you want it to be, especially at this point. But man, that's kind of it. You know, I didn't want to touch it anymore. I said, don't fiddle with it. Leave it as is. This isn't your number one best thing ever, and that is completely okay. So this will be available for purchase. Great advertisement, right? This will be available for purchase at the Gallery Nucleus Portland Coaster Show. If you want to buy this disaster, you can, online or at the gallery. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry this was like a little, silly, goofy time, but maybe you like that. Let me know. And go paint with some gouache, even if it doesn't turn out great.